If you want something you've never had before, you're going to have to do something that you've never done before. And at the time of this recording, it is December 11th. 2024 is upon us. And a lot of churches, a lot of pastors and church leaders are setting goals from themselves, but they don't know how they're going to do it. A lot of these churches want to be more known in the community. They want to be better known in the community. They want to have more outreach opportunities. They want to reach into the community, or they just want people coming to church to hear the gospel and be discipled. There's nothing wrong with the goals. There is something wrong if you only set goals, because goals are useless if you don't have action. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you the same strategies that we use to triple church guests in only 90 days. If you put these 3 things into practice and you do what I say, you will see. If you've got 3 families coming a month, you're going to see 9 families coming a month. If you've got 10 families coming a month, you're going to have 30 families coming to you. And if you implement these in January, by the time Easter rolls around, you're going to have more people in your community, dare I say everyone in your community, not only know about you, but know how you can serve them. They will feel understood. They will understand your church, what makes you different from what they've experienced or what they've seen on social media. And they will be coming to you to hear the gospel, to hear what you're doing differently, to be served and to serve. Ultimately, if you want to better accomplish your mission of your church in a way that's modern and not relevant in a way that it matches the world, but relevant in a way that they'll pay attention. They'll want to come dine with you. They'll want to come seek you and seek the wisdom that God's given you to bleed into them. It's a weird allegory there. But that's what we're talking about today. I'm going to give you the same strategy that we use to grow churches 3 times in 90 days. And when I talk about church growth, I'm never talking about butts and seats. I'm always talking about discipleship-focused, relationship-nurturing growth that's meaningful, that's personal. We're going to talk about that today. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
And welcome to the Best Known Church Show. If we have not met before, my name is Justin Nava, and I take full responsibility for you not knowing who I am, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad God has put you on a road to see this, to hear this, because there is a movement that is ready to happen in America. The culture needs to no longer see the church as an option, but the answer to their lives. And to do that, you need to be known by your community. If they do not know you, they cannot go to you. And not only that, what we're going to start off talking with today is how they know you. And specifically, we're going to be talking about branding. Now, a lot of pastors and church leaders, elders, well-meaning leaders in the church, they hear the word branding and they immediately turn off their ears. They stop listening. That's too businessy. That's too corporate. Well, listen, the reason why you are where you are is because you have not taken branding as seriously as you should. Look, branding is kind of like what youth ministry was 3 or 4 decades ago. Before that, there was no youth ministry. Everyone was just in church. And whether you look back at that or not is a good thing. That's your liberty. All right. But in the same way the churches looked at the youth of decades ago and said, we're not quite reaching them in the way they need to be reached. Branding is going to give you an opportunity to be known and to reach people you would not normally be able to reach, because they're going to know who you are before they actually visit your church. Okay, so branding is not just important to business, but it is knowing who you are and communicating who you are in the right way. Okay, it's the right message to the right people in the right way, so they take the right action. You don't understand your role in branding, or you don't understand branding's role in your church, because you just had a misrepresentation, miscommunication, or misunderstanding as to what branding is. Look, pretty simply, branding, imagine it like your reputation, okay? Look, would you, pastor, would you rather have your church building burned down or your reputation burned down? I think all of us would rather the building burn down. You can rebuild a building. God gave you a building, he can give us another one. But you burn that reputation. You get known in the community for something you did, something you didn't overcome, something you never did, or even something the pastor did. You can't rebuild that as easy. And in fact, churches come to me asking for a rebrand, okay? Because they have to distance themselves from that. And that's essentially what branding is. It's like a mark on a cow, right? You see a mark on a cow and you know, that's my uncle's cow. Or that's not my uncle's, that must be his neighbor's cow. I can see it and I can recognize it within an instant whose cow it is, to whom it belongs. And in the same way that Christians, I mean, really honestly, we should be branded with the identity of Christ. Your church should be branded with not only your identity in Christ, not only your position in the community, why you exist, which by the way is like your mission statement, but that's not your brand, okay? But what people need to know about you, what they need to feel about you, what they need to think about you. And the best way to get a well-known reputation, a well-known brand in your community is consistency, okay? Not having a consistent brand, identity, strategy, or diluting your brand message with too many things that are unrelated or overwhelming or mass information is going to be confusing and it's going to water down your brand, okay? Look, Jesus Christ is for everyone. Your church is not. And the best example of that is, what language do you speak? Does that mean you're turning away people of other languages? No. It just means that you're best equipped to serve people that speak English or speak Spanish or speak Mandarin. Whatever your church language is, you naturally can't, that is a natural barrier to people you cannot effectively serve. Okay? So if you understand that your church is just inherently not for everyone, that's why God's planting new churches, because there's people that the current churches are not reaching, and that's a result of the fallen world we live in. But I think it's a good thing that God is still calling pastors to plant. Your church cannot be known for everything. Look, you can't do everything. Even if you're a church of thousands, you can't do everything. Which is why different churches have different ministries, and different churches do ministries well. And the churches that struggle are struggling because they're trying to do things they were never called to do. They were never equipped to do. They were never gifted to do. How many times did you start a ministry, then the leader left, and you had no one to take it over? And then you find out, well, it was really struggling and hobbling along because that leader wasn't resourced from your church body, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you just weren't equipped or gifted to do it. If I prophesy, don't believe it because that's not my gift, okay? If my friend comes up to me and tries to give me some encouragement, I'm going to be like, thanks, dude, but I'm not going to take that to heart because I know that's not your gift. All right. You don't put a non-gifted administrator into a role if they don't have the gift of administration. Okay. So in the same way that we each have our own individual gifts, churches have their own unique individual giftings. Okay. And that becomes the reputation that you put out into the community. It's not good. It's not bad. It's what it is. It's what gets people to pay attention to your message, to then have intention to change or intention to hear what this Jesus is, what this church is doing, and gets them to act, is consistency and cohesion. But if you keep putting out there, hey, we're a church for the unchurched, we're a church for families, no, we're a church for singles, no, we love old people, no, we love young people, we need more college kids, we don't know where they are, we live down to the, I hear this often, right? We live down the street from a college, but these kids just don't know we exist, or all they do is come for the free lunch. If you try to do everything, you end up being noisy, watered down, flavorless, and you end up coming across as nothing, okay? Not only that, let's say you do know who you are. Does your communications match who you are? If you say, we're a fun, vibrant, loving community that's welcoming to everyone, but you have a logo that looks like a bank, and you use the same colors in all your visuals as a Chase Bank, well, you don't look fun and loving, you look institutional. And as much as you can say, oh, we're fun loving, oh, yeah. If you cannot back it up with consistent visuals, that's where that break is. That's where you say, man, I just wish more people knew that they could belong here. Well, if you have an institutional looking logo, a corporate logo, guess what? Subconsciously, that comes across, and that's a conflict between what you say and what you present. That conflict causes people to not trust you, to not want to act on you. It causes inconsistency. Okay, same thing if you say, you know what, we are a liturgical church. We take religion seriously. If you're not in all the way, then you're not in all the way. And this may not be the place for you to serve, or a place for you to witness, or a place for you to grow. Again, not exclusionary, but it's like, some churches are called, all churches are called to be soldiers for Christ. Some churches are called to be Navy SEALs. Okay. But if you present as a fun loving, hey, look at us, we're so much fun, and we've got a colorful purple and orange logo, and they come in and they experience Sears training, okay? That's a disconnect. You're going to have more people coming with a false representation of what the church is, and it was no fault of your own. You just didn't know how to get your brand to match who you are, okay? So the importance of branding, and when I say branding, a lot of pastors and church leaders think it's just a logo. It's not just a logo. It is the overall visualization and communication of your reputation. Let me say that again. Branding is the overall communication and visualization of your reputation. Somebody clip that. All right. A lot of pastors think that the logo is your brand. The logo is not your brand. That's like saying your foyer is your church. Okay. It's the first impression. A lot of what you do is built around your structure of your building, right? And we're going to come in here because this is where the foyer is. This is where you enter through the sanctuary. You're going to exit the other side so you don't get in conflict with the other service that's coming in from the foyer, right? It may be an important piece of how you structure your Sunday morning, but it's not your Sunday morning. It's just a piece. And the same thing is true with your logo. All right. Your logo is a part of your brand. It is not your brand. And doing branding does not mean you're just getting a new logo. That's like saying, I'm going to be a good Christian, and you buy a new Bible and you don't do anything else, right? There is more that's a part of that discipline of branding. So 2 things that branding is. Number 1, it's your message. It's the words you use. Okay. If you say belong, and I just realized my camera is really tall today. I don't want to touch it because it's been very finicky. I'll just be a short king today. I'm gonna stand on my heels. Okay, cut that. So it's what you say. Okay, so if you go out on a date and you tell you're interested, right? You're the person you're interested in. You tell them, oh yeah, I'm a star athlete. Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely. I make straight A's too. Oh, okay. Yeah, I even tutor at the college. That's how smart I am. Oh, all right. And also I lead the robotics team. We placed first in the nation. It was pretty cool. Like on paper, that sounds like some cool person you want to go out with, but also, do you really believe that person? Like there can be smart athletes, but they do everything else, right? Oh, I invented Pythagorean's theorem, but for squares. Like, what? This person is just full of themselves. I think we've all met someone like that, hopefully not on a date, but we know that whatever this person says, take it with a grain of salt. They can get carried away. And in the same way that person can get carried away and you don't really believe everything they say, you take it at not even face value. If you are not careful with your brand messaging, you will come across like that in your community. You will be known as a church that's just, oh, they're doing so much. There's no way I can plug in there. It's kind of like, by the way, this is your church, look, I don't care for it. Maybe it works for you in your community. I don't make any judgments. All right. But if you're a church of 50 and on your website, I see 12 ministries and 12 committees to be a part of and serve on, but I know you only got 50 people. That's a church that's going to turn me away because either I'm going to go expecting a large church because I got 12 ministries, 12 committees, 12 heads of committees, and there's only 50 people there. Like what? Or I know that church is overworked. I know that they're probably miserable because they're doing so much legalistic work instead of spiritual and outreach work because they're so concerned about their committees that's what they put on their website. I'm not going to go anyways. Okay. That's how you're coming across when you have that messaging. The messaging of we're so important. We have a committee for everything, even though we're tiny. Right. It's kind of like I was at a conference and it was a business conference, and the gentleman speaking, who has bought and sold businesses, billionaire, all that stuff, he said, unless your business makes $3 million a year, and you have an actual team of people, if you call yourself a CEO and you're a business of 1, 2, or 3, or you make less than that, you will be laughed out of the room, and you will never get a business loan because you are not serious about your business, because you are more concerned with titles than recognizing the reality of who you are or where you are. And I took that to heart because I'm like, okay, I'm not a CEO. I'm a founder. I'm a owner, whatever, but I'm not a CEO. I don't have a C-suite right now. Okay. But what I do have is I know who I am, and I know who I'm called to serve, and I know who I serve best. And that's discipleship focused, God-centered churches that want more people to hear the gospel by coming to church or by sending the church out to them using modern marketing methods without sounding gimmicky or doing things that just because they worked for someone else, I'm going to figure it out on my own. No, that's not who I'm called to serve. But anyways, so if you present your church as this big grand thing and look at how great we are, but really on the inside, you're just barely struggling along, that's a miscommunication of your brand that causes mistrust, and that mistrust bleeds into your reputation. So you have to know exactly who you are, who you're called to serve, who you're gifted to serve, what's going to resonate with them. That's the right message, and then give them the right thing to do, because eventually the right time will come. That's why I say it's important to get your message out there, even if someone's not interested. Just because they're not interested now doesn't mean that they're not interested in the future. Then you take that message, that communication, that brand messaging, and you link it to visuals, okay? Now, when I talk about linking it to visuals, I'm not talking about color theory, okay? If every church did perfect color theory, we would all have blue logos that look like bank logos, because that's what color theory ultimately leads you to. Right? You're either blue because you want to be trusted, or you're red because you want to stand out, or you're purple because you want to be different and creative. Maybe orange does that too. All right. And then your group's logos are always green because it's growth, right? Color theory is a good practice, but it's the last 20%. Meaning, if you follow what is Pareto's principle, 80-20, 20% of the work gives you 80% of the results. Color theory is not part of that 20%. Okay, visual consistency is that 20%. You can worry about color theory when you're running $1 million campaigns and you've got 4 churches planted in a network of churches because you've done so much work reaching into your community that then you need to figure out how to communicate this, and then you can go into that. Okay, that's advanced stuff. All right, that's like looking at the theory of, how do we celebrate Last Supper? How do we remember our Last Supper? How often do we do it? How do we pass out the elements? And you're like, it's like someone worrying about that. And I'm like, dude, you haven't even accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. Why are you thinking about all this stuff? So your visuals need to be linked to your messaging. And again, I'm not talking about brand theory. I'm talking about if you are a personal grandfather-like brand, messaging in your brand, then your visuals should represent that. It should be stoic. It should be authoritative. But if you're more of like the friendly church, like we're along this side with you and we're figuring it out with you, but we know the answer, we know what happens in the future, not prophecy, but revelation wise, we know what's coming, but we have peace because we know we are with Christ. And hey, we want to bring you alongside with us. Right? If that's your church, then you got to have a logo and visuals to match that. If you're just black and white and you come across like Louis Vuitton, that clashes with your message. That causes mistrust. That mistrust causes a break in your reputation. So these are linked, okay? Very rarely will I do visual branding, sometimes it's called brand identity. Very rarely do I do that work unless there's been messaging work already done, or we will do it as a part of that process. Because that's how important it is. It's like trying to take the New Testament without the Old Testament, or the Old Testament without the New Testament. You need both to get a full picture and give your community the full picture of your church. Okay? So real quick, if you just want to take some actions with that, number 1, story brand framework. You can buy the book for $16, I think it is. Building a story brand. Try to do it yourself. You can talk with us. We can do it. We have a new framework that we've been working through. I'm very excited. It's based off of the story brand framework, but it goes a little bit more into direct response, which is where we see a lot of people getting involved with the church. Direct response is directly reaching out to them and asking them to make a decision, not for Christ, but make a decision to check out the church or come to an event. Story brand can work with that, but it's a little bit higher level. So we've kind of, if you want to call it story brand light, I don't like calling it that, but we have our own memorable message framework that we use. It's much more affordable for churches, but you can also hire a story brand certified guide to do that. We have one on contract because for some churches that's important to them. They have the blessings to be able to pay for that. So we offer that as well. But that's your first step. Number 2 is get your messaging. All right. And then you get your visuals that match your messaging. And when you work with a brand guide that knows their stuff, a brand expert that knows their stuff, they'll be able to take that message and be able to select colors that resonate with that, be able to select visuals that resonate with that, not just your logo, but the 10 different ways your logo needs to be shown based on the medium: digital, analog, tall, long, wide, square, in depth, without depth, flat, 3D, whatever, matte. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that I don't even know about, but they're in our deliverables. So I'm like, okay, this is very important. They'll be able to match with your messaging to support that. Okay. You don't wear a suit. If you wear a suit or collared shirt when you preach, you don't do that because you have to. You do it because it supports the authority that God has given to you to lead his people and gets them to pay attention to you, versus a Hawaiian shirt, shorts, and sandals. Like, this bro's like me. Well, I need to listen to him. Okay. I'm not saying the pastors can't wear that stuff, but for many of the churches that I serve, that's just the clientele that I have. But if that's you, if you are the surfer, you got to have visuals and messaging that represents that. It all works together. All right. Now, I want to speak briefly to how people find a church now. Okay. Because they may have heard about you. All right. I have a lot of churches that I talk to that say, oh, we're doing really good with word of mouth. We're doing really good. People hear about us and they come visit us. And I say, okay, show me your analytics. And when they get maybe 4 guests on a Sunday, they're getting 1,200 hits to the website, of which 400 to 800 of them are new prospective guests. And the reason why there's so many people looking at the website, but so many few people showing up, is because there was something online that turned them away. So if you feel like you have good word of mouth, I ask you to honestly evaluate yourself, not only how many people are coming to you, but how many people are going away from you because maybe they heard about you, but then they went online and saw something they didn't like, saw something that contradicted what they heard about you, or they went online, they couldn't even find you. Okay. We're not going to go to a place. Very rarely will we go to a place, I should say, without looking it up online first. Okay. Maybe there's a Mexican place that I drive by. I'm like, oh, there's a Mexican place there. Next time I feel like new Mexican, not my typical Mexican food, then I'll go try that place. Right. And maybe I'll go to it without looking at it, but that's because I like adventure. My wife, on the other hand, she's going to be looking that place up online. She's going to be looking up the reviews. She's going to be looking at the website. She's going to be looking at the pictures of the food. She's going to be looking at the prices. She's going to be looking at peak times on Open Table if it's a fancy restaurant. Okay. She's going to be looking up that stuff. Okay. We live in an informed culture, meaning there is very little that people don't know. And dare I say, I think we all feel this a little bit. There's very little that people think they don't know, meaning people think they know a lot more than they actually do. So they're not going to just go to your church blind. They're going to look you up online, not just to find directions and service times, but just like, what is this place we're walking into? I've been burned by going to a church blind. We were told one thing. I was one of the student workers that I worked with when I worked at the college IT department. And they went to this church. They're a cool kid. So this must be a cool church for us too. We went and we were totally blindsided by the kind of church it was. Because we didn't do our due diligence. And so there was another church that we were blindsided to, but that's because their website did not match what they actually did in the church. The website was outdated. Apparently the church went through this big revitalization process and went a totally different direction than historically they had. And they hadn't updated their website. And we didn't even stay for the full service. We left in the middle of it because it was not what we expected. Okay. 80% of people, all that to say, 80% of people will visit a website before they visit your church building. So if your website is not upkept, is not maintained, is not up to date, is not available or findable, you're losing out on 80% of the people that are at least interested in you. Meaning that, I don't know, I'm not a math guy, but if you get one new guest on a Sunday morning, how many more came to your website, didn't find it, didn't think it looked good, wasn't for them, didn't create the right first impression? Okay, not being able to find you online It's like not being able to find your building. We have road signs. One of the first thing a church plant does before the building is even built, they get a vinyl road sign that says, our church is coming. You can expect this church to be right here because they want people to be able to find the building. But then they neglect their online road sign, their website, saying our church is here. Here's what we can do for you. Here's how you can find us. If they can't find you online, they can't choose to go to your church. They can't vet you. Maybe they'll go to a different church. God willing, it's a good church. All right. So you have to not only have that website, that's kind of like your online church building, but it's also, they have to be able to find you. Okay. And that's where a lot of churches feel like the job is done. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see and needs to be fixed in 2024. In fact, it's becoming a really big focus for us as an agency, is being found online, showing up in Google so people can see you and go to you. Okay. How important is this? Literally while the intro was playing, I got a message from a client. Got another visitor yesterday from Google. I record these on Monday. So it was a Sunday service. Another visitor came because they found the church on Google. How did they find the church on Google? This guy puts the church as number 1 on Google, okay? Because people are going to go online to find a church. It's just the way it is now. It's how people choose where they're going to go. So a common mistake I see churches making, and it's very frustrating because I used to play a role in this mistake, is they get all excited because they got a new website. Or they get excited because, hey, we finally got a budget at $3,000, $4,000, $10,000. We're going to get this beautiful website. We got the website built. And nothing changes on a Sunday morning because people can't find the new website. Because you haven't optimized it to show up higher on Google, to be more visible on Google. When people search for a church in Google Maps, your church isn't there. When people go online to look for a church, your church has no reviews. Or generic reviews. So who cares about that church? It must be a generic church. I don't think anyone has a generic church, but we can make that impression. That's part of branding. But online, you need to have that first impression. Okay. Another mistake I see, besides just building a website but having no plan to get it found, another mistake I see is churches neglecting online reviews. Okay. Now this is another part where pastors will hear online reviews about the church, click, turn off the brain, skip. This isn't for me. This is too businessy. I understand. It's also businessy to literally have quarterly business meetings as a church. It's too businessy to have finance reports and budgeting and QuickBooks, right? But we do that because it's part of operating a church in America. Well, guess what? Part of being an outreaching church and a welcoming church is having online reviews that showcase that, because I will hear what you say, but I will believe what someone else says about you. And the only time churches ever really think about online reviews is when a negative one comes through. But guess what? If you have 99 positive reviews, not just reviews that say great church, funny pastor, friendly people, but online reviews that say I was lost and God found me and brought me into this community, and now I'm living my best life. Now I'm living fulfilled, and now I'm passing on my legacy. 99 reviews like those, who cares about the one church that said, oh, I hit a pothole outside the church, they should have fixed this? Or this pastor doesn't know what he's talking about. They didn't do the Apostles' Creed before he preached. 1 star. That review doesn't matter. That's just noise. Because you've got 99 reviews that are speaking to the power that God has in that church. So that's another mistake, is neglecting your online reviews. So people are, when they look for a church, they want to look online. Okay. That's why, first we want to be memorable with our brand messaging. Now we want to be found by having an online presence that's just not just engaging when you find it, but able to be found. All right. We call this in the industry search engine optimization. Specifically for local churches, we call it local search engine optimization, or local SEO. This is primarily focusing not getting your church website to rank on page 1 for someone in Portland when you're in Florida, but getting your church website to show up when people search for churches near me, Baptist church around me, church in North Houston, whatever it is. Your church should show up. Because again, if you don't show up, another will, and I can't guarantee that that church is God-honoring, Christ-centered, fully focused on discipleship and kingdom work. that church might be a false teacher, false prophet, wolf in sheep's clothing. So your church needs to do whatever it takes to get in front of those churches, because I guarantee you they're doing whatever it takes to get in front of you. And it's one of those things where William Booth would say, why should the devil get all the best tunes? Well, why should the devil always show up first on Google? We need to change that. So some practical things you can do is, number one, optimize your website. This is things like making sure all the metadata is in there. Most website builders, you can go in there and it'll have things for like meta title, meta tag. By the way, this one thing we did, this one thing we did for a church took them from like number 7 to number 3 in just a matter of weeks. And that was, I can't believe I'm sharing this with you. That was simply changing the meta tag from home, welcome, you're welcome here. No, that meta title for the homepage says church in their town. Just changing that one tag boosted that church from like number 7 to number 3. And the rest of it took them to number 1. Okay. Optimizing your website in that fashion will get you ranked higher, because Google will see that you're taking it seriously, more serious than all the other jokers out there. Number 2, you got to claim your Google business profile, because that's where, that's what shows up in Google Maps. That's what shows up in a lot at top of Google. Before your website even shows up, those Google business profiles will show up. There was a client we had that their website was number 1 because their church has been around forever. And they were one of the first to have a website. So they have the longest longevity of authority, but they weren't showing up in maps. And guess what? Over half of people don't go past the maps option when they're searching for a local organization. So they weren't able to be found because they weren't findable. Even though their website was ranked number 1, realistically and practically, they weren't even in the top 3. And the last thing is what we call directory listings. Look, go out, be listed on Yelp, Google, Nextdoor, Neighbor, Uber, Apple Maps. The more places you have that know you, the more places people can find you. One sleeper cell that we found is Public Square. You can look up about the organization. It's kind of a political listing, but people are coming to church. People are looking for churches on the Public Square app. So if you want to be there, be there. Same client that just texted me or emailed me in the middle of the intro that I shared with you earlier. He also told me a few weeks ago someone came because of their listing there. Okay. So be where people are searching for churches. Okay. Because they're not asking their friends and family. And even if they do, or they get invited by friends and family, they're going to look you up online. You need to be well spoken of. You need to speak well of yourself, and you need to be discoverable and be found wherever people are looking. The last thing I want to share with you today is about advertising. Church advertising has a bad rap. And I totally agree with you, right? The church should not have to be advertising. Okay. But we can use advertising methods to get in front of people. The difference, most church advertising sounds like this. Hey, we're a God-honoring church and we believe in Jesus Christ and the power to heal you. And we'd love to have you Sunday morning at 10:30. Okay. I know a lot of pastors church leaders listening to this would love to have an ad that sounds like that. I don't want that for you. Okay. Church advertising should not be about the church. And that's what a lot of churches do, not realizing that no one cares about your church. They care about what your church can do for them. They don't care, or they don't not go to church. Let me phrase that better. People don't go to church because they don't understand what you do. They don't go to church because they don't feel understood by you. They don't feel like you empathize with them. They don't feel like you've been where you've been. They look at you like you're on a holy pedestal. And you could never understand what I've been through. So why would I engage and connect with you? And that's why they go seek other worldly solutions to their spiritual problems, because they felt heard and understood by those. And that's why the cycle keeps repeating itself, because the enemy has figured out the psychology of the modern American. And the church is sitting back here selfish. No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to preach the gospel and let God bring them in. God's trying to bring them in. But you're getting in his way by putting obstacles up, by not making it easy to find you, not making it easy to understand what you do, and certainly not making it easy to feel understood by what you do. And the enemy can get in there and start veering them off the path, even though they think they're on the right path. They're not. So a lot of leaders think that any form of advertising will suffice. It's not about your church. It's about what your church can do for the person. It's not about you becoming an extreme user of the force and you have the best lightsaber skills. It's about how you can best guide Luke Skywalker, I know I just went off a total tangent, to better use the force and connect with the force and be the ultimate Jedi. Okay, that's old school Star Wars. Look, we ran some campaigns for a church in the past. Their campaign was, hey, we've got this event coming up. We're going to have all this. You can sign up here. We'd love to have you. All right. We ran an ad that spoke to the person. Look, there's not many safe places to take your kids today. You don't know what you're going to expect. You don't know who they're going to be around. And the family-friendly events in our community are shrinking. We're going to do something about that. We've got a family-friendly block party, old school fun like you grew up with. You're going to connect with your kids in a way that you've never connected with them before. You're going to have fun with it, and you're going to eat some delicious barbecue that's been sponsored by some pit master. And if you RSVP, we'll give you 10 extra tickets to spend on food, fun, and games. Right? You hear the difference? One is, look at me, don't you want to be with us? The other is, I understand where you are, so we're going to do something for you. And the difference is, when people came to that event, twice as many people came because of the Facebook ad than any other method. We have ways to measure that. One of the easiest things you can do is to make a check-in. Hey, we've got to check in here in order to get into the event. You got to check in here. If you RSVP'd, we got your free tickets. We're going to feed you for free, but you need a ticket, so check in. And when they check in, you ask, how did they hear about us? And Facebook ads outperformed all the yard signs, all the word of mouth. And guess what? They were half the price of yard signs that they printed out. So you need to make, when you do advertising, which is just simply paying to put your church in front of people, okay? It's not manipulative. It's not tacky. It's not icky. It is simply using modern methods to get your church's awareness in front of someone. Does that make sense? It's to get your church's name in front of someone to raise awareness. There we go. Hello. And another mistake that churches try to make, even the ones that understand that, or the ones that want to get in front of more people, is they think that, okay, well, I just need to get our church information out in front of people. No one acts on information. If that was the case, we'd be changing diets every day. Oh, this diet, keto, that's what's losing weight. No, I just learned about Weight Watchers. Okay, let me do that. Oh, I just learned about the yellow food only diet. Okay, I'm going to try that. We've heard stories about what works for friends and family, so we try that because we're inspired, because we see the result. And again, we feel understood. We follow the workout guru who says, oh, I was 300 pounds. I was aching. I was out of breath when I tried to put my socks on in the morning. I feel understood by that guy, so he obviously knows what's best for me, so I'm going to listen to him. Versus the ripped workout guru who's like, oh, don't you want to be like me? Like, that's not going to work for as many people. So in the same way, we don't want to just be general. Don't you want to be like us and join us? And it would be so much fun. And yeah, we'd like to have you. But hey, we used to be just like you. We've dealt with the same struggles. The difference is now we have the ultimate creator that stands up against anything that stands against us. Okay. And so they do this general, like, hey, here's some information about us, instead of here's where you are, here's where you should be, and here's how we can take you there. And on a personal level, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you can listen to last week's episode of the Best Known Church Show, where we talk about personalized advertising and what that looks like and what that entails and how to do that. You do that, you will see twice as many people, if not 3 times as many people, coming to your church and engaging with you, even engaging with you online, than if you just put out a general, oh, look how great we are. So the other thing you need to do when you advertise is track your metrics. A lot of metrics, pastors and church leaders will stop at impressions, or what's the other word for impressions? Can't think of the other word right now. But they basically, how many people saw it. That doesn't matter. That's not important. It's like a billboard. Doesn't mean anything. Impressions don't pay the bills. Impressions don't save people. What saves people is conversions, right? You convert to Christianity. And in the same way, you need to get conversions on your advertising. You need to get people to sign up. You need to get people to click. You need to get people to watch the video. You can measure everything online. So you should be measuring what's most important to you. Okay. For example, we have an ad that's about to run offering prayer to the community, but we don't want to offer it to just everybody. That'd be too expensive. So what we do is we offer a cheaper video campaign to get a video about what God can do or has done for these people, how he can heal you, what God's doing, some testimonies. We run that to the community, and people who are not interested in that, who aren't ready to receive that word, they just scroll past it. Well, guess what? Now we spend 7 cents on them, not $7 on them. Because we want to get in front of the people we can serve right now. Same reason why when you run an ad, one of the first questions it asks you, what language do you want to target? Because we're not going to show your English ad to Spanish speakers. They won't understand it. You're going to be wasting your money. And along that same line, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they will happily take your money and in fact charge you more for a bad ad because it's a bad ad and they'll make more money on it. You have to know what you're doing to effectively utilize these modern channels. Okay. Now, I know I threw a lot at you, but those 3 things, get your branding right. That's your reputation. You need to be found online and easily correctly represented online through not only your website, but also your reviews. And then you need to go out and get in front of people, because it doesn't matter how beautiful, gorgeous your stonework road sign is. It doesn't matter how beautiful and expertly designed that billboard is. When they're in the car, their eyes are not up, their eyes are down. In fact, if you make a Facebook ad, people are more likely to see your Facebook ad driving in front of your church than they are your sign. So you got to go where the people are. Instead of spending 40 grand on reworking your sign, spend a 100th of that and reach more people that you're better equipped to serve and that are willing to be served and want to see something new in their life. They're actually actively seeking God. Then you're found by them. You're understood by them, and they're understood by you. And they come in and finally hear the true gospel of Christ. You do those 3 things, you will see, by the way, you do them in 90 days, you will see 3 times as many people. Imagine what you could do in a year. In a year, we've taken clients to 10x their guests on a monthly basis. Okay, because we took them from irrelevant, understandable, hard to grasp to relevant, understood, and easy to take a next step with. Whoop, my camera glitched there. So more people are wanting to, my camera's glitching. That's so weird. So more people are wanting to connect with them. So I'll take that as my sign to leave here. We'll just go, goodness gracious. All right. We'll go audio only for the outro. I don't know what's going on with my camera there. So like and subscribe wherever you're watching. I appreciate you spending the last 43 minutes with me. I hope this was clear and understandable with me. On December 13th, we are launching a new resource. You can go to bestknownchecklist.com. If you go there before the 13th, you'll still get a checklist, but you'll get the 2023 checklist. There's several modifications we've made to prepare it for 2024. So you can go to bestknownchecklist.com to get that checklist. Go on December 13th because you'll get the newest, most up-to-date version. Before then, I guess you can email me, hello@navachurchmarketing.com. One of my team or myself will send you that checklist. But like and subscribe wherever you're watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. And look, this is not the end all be all. If you want to grow your church, engage more people, share Christ with more people, we need to utilize the methods where their attention lies. And that's what we're about. You do these strategies, you will double, nay, triple your church guests in 90 days. God bless you all.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.